And we're back with another episode of the Tracy Take. Tyler, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Just visiting Miami, doing a little scouting of the rookies down here in Miami. Which is what I was telling myself earlier.
How has Jalen Waddle looked at rookie minicamp so far?
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Hasn't dropped a pass yet that I've seen.
Is he still a body catcher?
He's a body catcher, hands catcher. Been playing baseball for the Marlins as well.
A pitch catcher, yeah.
Yeah.
That's Miami had a good draft class, but we are talking about the other East division in the NFL today, the NFC East.
Nice.
Yeah. But no, the NFC East was one of the more competitive divisions last year, not because of a plethora of talent. Yeah, in a bad way. So for me, this was definitely one of the more interesting divisions in the draft, especially because 3 of the 4 teams picked back to back to back.
We're scheduled to. Yeah.
Yeah, they were scheduled to. Yeah. But then they rearranged a little bit. The Giants moved back, which is surprising. We'll talk about them later on. But I think to get started, I think we're going to go in draft order of when they drafted, not when they were supposed to.
Yep.
But the Eagles traded up to number 10 with the Cowboys and drafted Devontae Smith, and they were the first NFC East team to make a pick. Overall, I really like what the Eagles did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
I really like the Devontae Smith pick. In the past, going 2 first-round wide receivers in a row showed marginal returns, like not that great. But I think the 2 guys that they have complement each other very well. They're both speed guys. Devontae Smith can play in the slot and out wide, and Jalen Reagor is a guy that can play out wide. Mm-hmm. And then I think they addressed one of their biggest concerns, which is probably the aging of that offensive line with the second pick in Landon Dickerson. Yeah. And if he can stay healthy, I mean, he's a first-round talent.
Oh, by far.
Yeah. And so for me, I think they did a really good job. And then, I mean, you go down, Kenneth Gainwell is a guy who can come in and really get some yardage on third downs when Miles Sanders is off the field. So yeah. What were your overall thoughts?
I agree completely with what you said. I thought that the Eagles are just like actually a lot of the other teams in this division needed a lot. And I thought with each pick and each position that they addressed, I thought that they picked good quality picks. Devontae Smith at number 10, falling down there and trading up to number 10. Heisman winner. I mean, he's got the talent there. Same thing. I agree with exactly what you said, Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson arguably could have been a top 15 pick if he stayed healthy, because he was just an absolute dominant force. You already mentioned him. I think one of their steals is going to be Kenneth Gainwell. He gives me a Aaron Sproles type feel to it, very small but speedy runner, and can catch some balls out of the backfield. And so they improved at every spot. Then you have Milton Williams, defensive end out of Louisiana Tech. I saw him play in that bowl game. He dominated. He's a huge force.
I saw this interesting thing online about him. He tested at the pro day. Granted, so it's pro day numbers, so they're a little bit inflated. But he tested very similar to Aaron Donald on the pro day in terms of 40 time, height, weight, speed. Type of guy. And if he's a guy that can come in, he'll probably sit for a little while. I think Fletcher Cox is going to close out his career in Philadelphia. I mean, I think he's deserved that for the career he's put together there.
Yeah.
But for me, he's a guy, third-round guy that can come in. If somebody gets hurt, he can play a role. Or in a few years, I mean, I think he could be really, really good after just doing some strength and conditioning at the NFL level.
Yeah.
So
I agree completely. And it's going to be – and especially in that third round, like they're gonna have to develop for a little bit, but you can find a lot of great talent from there. And like you said, even Kenneth Gainwell was picked in the 5th round. And so one of the things I really like about their draft is it was very, and I think I've already kind of touched on this, but it was very spread out. The Eagles are a team that really needed to address a lot of different positions, and they did that, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So their first 6 picks were all on different positions at different various points throughout the field. They had 3 interior, 3 interior lineman picks and 3 skills guy picks. And I think that's a very balanced draft. And as I said, the guys that they did pick I think can provide talent very soon. Maybe not this year, but within the next year as they develop.
Yeah, no, definitely. And they only double dipped at one position. That was defensive tackle, and calling their defensive line last year porous was a compliment, I guess.
Yeah,
and so
in that division, like, if you have a strong defense, then you have a good chance to win. It seems like every year these teams have okay offenses, but the teams that have the weak defenses are the ones that can't survive.
Yeah. No. And I mean, if you look at the running backs in that division, I mean, you have Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, and then who was the rookie? Wait, what?
Ryan Fitzpatrick, running back.
No, running backs. Oh yeah. Who was the rookie for the Washington football team?
I know who you're talking about.
I have a bunch of his football cards. I should know who this is. It's not Peyton Barber. I don't know. They had Adrian Peterson there for a while. Antonio Gibson. I kept wanting to say Anthony McFarland, but that's not it. No, they had Adrian Peterson too on the Washington football team, and I mean, they just couldn't stop the run for most of the year.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that for them, a lot of what they've done in this draft shores up that defensive line and will kind of allow them to be more explosive offensively, drafting Devontae Smith and Kenneth Gainwell to go alongside Jalen Hurts, Jalen Reagor, Dallas Goedert. Is Zach Ertz still there? And
I thought
there were some questions around him.
Or they were
coming back.
Cut him.
Yeah.
There's been so many moves this offseason.
Oh yeah, but
yeah,
as far as I know, he hasn't signed anywhere else.
Yeah.
So
I think one thing I think that when I look at this draft makes me feel good for the Eagles in the future is I feel like you've set Jalen Hurts up for success.
Yeah. Well, you'll know what you'll have in him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Come the end of the season.
You drafted good players at each position with each pick, and there is a foundation that is set up around him. So now, is he going to be the guy going forward? And I hope he's successful. Nothing against Jalen Hurts, but we'll have to see. Though I do have my doubts on his NFL readiness. But that being said, though, the Eagles, I think, have set him up set him up in a position to be successful. Now, I wonder how the new coaching change will do for him. Doug Peterson kind of left very late in the game. I think it was well after the season ended when they fired him. We'll have to see how things go out. But all in all, I would give their draft a B overall. I think they addressed good quality positions.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna give it a B plus. Actually, I'm gonna go A minus.
Okay.
I like the moves that they made. I think all the way up until rounds 5, they drafted a lot of players that I actually knew.
Yeah.
And had heard about, which is a good thing to get that kind of depth.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, after that, you're just kind of looking for physical traits, and I think they did that with a lot of their 6th and 7th round picks. Is just they drafted guys that could potentially develop, and we'll see how their careers go. And so I'm going to give them an A minus. I think they probably had the best draft of any team in this division, and I know they're the first ones off the board, but I'm going to go ahead and just put that out there that I think they did the best job of all the teams.
Okay, all right. I'll see if I can change
in this division.
See if I can change your mind by the end.
Okay, we'll see. So up next, the Dallas Cowboys who traded back with the Eagles to number 12. So what did you think about them trading back and then drafting Micah Parsons, which is a position that they kind of, I guess, have a pretty good depth with Leighton Vander Esch, and then they have one more linebacker whose name is escaping me at the moment too.
Yeah, so the pick to me makes sense. With Dan Quinn as a new defensive coordinator, he's going to bring in a little bit different defense. He kind of likes these big, rangy, speedy linebackers.
Yeah.
So he could develop him, and I'll say Micah Parsons provides a lot of versatility. He can rush the passer. He can play run defense. He can also not pass protect, go and pass coverage to man or zone. Some development in the latter two, but still, he can still turn into one of these guys, and that's why I think Dan Quinn really likes him. The trading back with your division rival kind of makes sense, I would say, because even though now they're going to have to guard Devontae Smith now for at least the next 4 to 5 years. So I do get that. But for them gaining picks in the process, I think it makes sense, because I think you kind of figure at the time New York was picking 11th, and you don't think that they're going to go with Micah Parsons. They're probably going to go with a skilled player position like Devontae Smith, probably actually, for someone of Daniel Jones to throw to. So it makes sense if you add a better value pick. All in all, the Cowboys are a very defensive-heavy draft, and that's kind of what they need. Their offense is actually kind of set. Dak Prescott can stay healthy.
Yeah.
They have a pretty good offense, but their defense was their biggest weakness. And all in all, position-wise, I think they addressed almost everything. Well, not almost. Well, only thing they didn't address was safety, but some of these cornerbacks can transition to safety.
Trayvon Diggs played safety in college for a little bit. I think he might move over there. I really like the Kelvin Joseph pick. I mean, in that division, you have some pretty athletic wide receivers. The Giants drafted one that I was pretty high on at the 20th pick, who will remain nameless for the moment. But then the Eagles drafted Devontae Smith, who we just talked about. Terry McLaurin is on the on the Washington football team. Also, another nameless rookie wide receiver is coming onto the Washington football team, who we both liked. And so I think they did a good job getting value here. I mean, elite athlete, 4.34 speed, pretty good 3-cone drill.
Yeah,
he's a big playmaker. I just think he needs time to develop. And kind of continue to just not be as raw, to kind of get honed in.
Yeah.
But one of the things I wish they would have done more is improve that offensive line. Ezekiel Elliott is a guy that, if his offensive line can't create holes, to me he's kind of like in a way like Derrick Henry. If he gets in space, he's so hard to bring down, but you just have to get him in space.
Yeah.
And he can make a guy or two miss, but it's tough with him because that O-line wasn't that good last year, and so he had I think an average season for him. And so I wish they would have addressed the offensive line a little bit more, possibly in the 3rd round. I think the Chauncey Golson pick and Osa Odigizua was a little bit of a reach. But I mean, I can't really complain too much. They definitely did a ton to bolster up that defense, which was their biggest problem last year, besides the fact that Dak Prescott got hurt. But you can't really control that.
Well, and so that's where I would – my only thing with the Micah Parsons pick is if Dak Prescott is your prize commodity and they paid him $160 million over the next 4 years, Rashawn Slater's sitting right there with the 12th pick. And you just touched on increasing the run game, giving Ezekiel Elliott more opportunity. Also then protecting Dak Prescott. Now, I'm not blaming the lineman on the Dak Prescott injury. That was Dak Prescott was rolling out.
Oh, yeah.
The Dak Prescott was rolling out, and it was a freak thing to begin with. But we still want to protect him. Rashawn Slater's there, and I think Rashawn Slater provides better football impact, and I even think has a little bit of a higher ceiling than Micah Parsons. His floor is definitely higher than Micah Parsons' floor. And so I know they want to be very defensive-oriented, but also if you want to pick up Dak Prescott, and you already know you're going to have a very defensive-heavy draft, you're going to be able to find guys, like you said, Kelvin Joseph, Osa Odigizua from UCLA. I think I pronounced that correctly. But they're going to be throwing the kitchen sink at the defense with rookies, and you have some say the best offensive lineman in the draft. I don't think he's best, but the clear second best offensive lineman.
Yeah,
and so that's where I wonder.
He's a top 5 offensive lineman that we've seen in the past few years, and we had 4 go off the board in the top 15 last year.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree. I think that would have been a great pick. Yeah. But I do think Micah Parsons will.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I'm not complaining with the Micah Parsons pick. I think the better pick would have been Rashawn Slater to protect. Protect Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
And also it opens up the run game as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And in a division with Chase Young,
who he
dominated in college, I think that would have been very big. And we'll get to the Giants later, but they drafted Azeez Ojulari in the second round. That was a guy I had a first-round grade on. And so, for me, I think they left a little bit on the table there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the picks that I really like is a Jabril Cox pick. In the 4th round. He's an inside linebacker from LSU, and he actually played at North Dakota State, the powerhouse of the FCS.
Yeah.
And for me, he's an athletic linebacker. I think for me, if they would have drafted Rashawn Slater in the 1st round and then just got only Jabril Cox in the 4th round, for me, I would have graded this draft like an A-.
Yeah.
Just like the Eagles. But I think double dipping at that inside linebacker position, kind of, I don't know. It ruined it. It ruined it a little bit for me just because I think they left something on the table.
Well, that's where the one thing with Micah Parsons that he does bring to the table that Dan Quinn, I think, likes a lot. Now, and we keep talking about Dan Quinn. We don't know how much of a say he has on the draft, but just talking about his overall effectiveness. I can see him liking a player like Micah Parsons. I just wonder, though, if he's going to be able to develop more into the overall linebacker, if he's going to be kind of more of the third down blitzing type linebacker. And so he's like an edge linebacker hybrid right now.
Yeah, he did a good job of covering in college. For me, it just it wasn't something that he was really, really good at. And I think Jabril Cox is just he's not as good of a pass rusher or I guess a run defender, but I guess he's just a good all around linebacker.
Yeah.
But so for me, I'm going to give this draft just like a B to B plus.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it were a number, it'd be like an 86.5.
Yeah.
So
okay. I was going to go with B minus, just because, like I said, it was very defensive heavy as well, and they had a lot of late round picks, which that's not why I gave it B minus. I think that with missing out on Rashawn Slater, I think that's going to come back to bite them. Now, I could say that in 20 years from now, Micah Parsons could be given his Hall of Fame inductee speech,
Yeah.
So and that's where it could be wrong. But if you already know it's going to be so defensive oriented, and they address damn near every single defensive position, I think you got to take the better player in that position and protect Dak Prescott, open up the running game against Ezekiel Elliott. Because if they can open up the running game with Ezekiel Elliott, and you have Dak Prescott who can also run, then he's throwing to Amari Cooper, he's throwing to not Cole Beasley, who's their guy that
CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup,
So they have so many weapons, and it's something similar to where, what are they gonna say? Like why I somewhat debated with the Falcons drafting Penei Sewell, so to say, is if you can open up that run game, solidify that offensive line, your offense is going to be so good. It's already good now. Same thing with Cowboys, but solidify that offensive line, and now it's going to be so good. And then you draft picks, and then you hope that you draft correctly on the defense from there. But that being said, though, I do think the Cowboys are still the best team overall. I think they would have won the division last year. Dak Prescott had stayed healthy. And I still think that they can win this year. But overall, though, since I think that they missed on the first pick, especially with trading back, I would have to give them a B minus.
Okay. Yeah, I just one last little touch. I think on paper they're the best team. I just don't. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on some of the rookies to perform.
Yeah.
And so, because I think that defensive side of the ball is still going to be very inexperienced.
Yeah. And
I think when they come into a late December game at Washington or in Philadelphia or in New York where it's an outdoor stadium, it's cold, and that offense is having an off night, I don't think they're going to win that game just because I think that defense is going to be young and inexperienced.
Well, and that comes, and that comes with being a young and inexperienced team, to be honest.
Yeah, but not that those other teams are so much more experienced. I just don't think Dallas is necessarily set up to win those kind of games.
Yeah.
So next is the Washington football team.
Okay.
The mascotless
what color are your jerseys? Red.
What color?
Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, they're red. Yeah. So
no, maroon actually
or maroon.
Yeah, maroon, I should say.
Dark red. Well, it's.
But yeah, what were your overall thoughts on the WFTs?
It's interesting because I like some of the picks, and I actually think they did a good job in the second and third round. But some of what they did was a little confusing. I think the Jamin Davis pick was a bit of a reach. I think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was a better player. And then they had a shot at him again, I think, in the second round, and then they didn't take it again.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So, but for me, I think they did a good job of kind of addressing their needs. I mean, they needed another corner to kind of go up against some of the wide receivers. They got Benjamin St. Juste out of Minnesota, who was okay. I mean, competitive in the Big Ten. And then Samuel Cosmi was an offensive tackle who's really athletic, and I think that offensive line was good. Was good last year, and it just needed to be shored up on the edges. And then Diami Brown was one of my favorite later round wide receivers. Mm-hmm. He's a speedster out of North Carolina, and I think he'll really open up some room for Terry McLaurin to really succeed next year.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I agree on the sentiment with you guys. I will say, being living in Tennessee, watched a lot of SEC football. I do like the Jamin Davis pick. I think he's an overall good, aggressive linebacker. Someone that actually we didn't really speak about too much in our pre-draft. That being said, though, a lot of what I watched him was when I was at a friend's house, and they played Tennessee, and Tennessee is not good at football, so take that for what it's worth. But that being said, though, all in all, I think their draft was fine. They're similar to the Eagles, where they have so many needs, and the one thing it's very easy to pick apart what they didn't pick, which I'll get to in a second. But I think all the picks that they did have, I think, did address specific needs. They already have one of the best defenses in the league, so then providing even more depth might provide some of these rookies time to grow and shine even later. So, the Jamin Davis only sees minimal playing time this year, but he's able to develop behind that great defense. It's only going to be better for the team. But that being said, Samuel Cosmi pick I think is good value at 51st overall, and I do like the receiver picks and even their tight end pick, John Bates, with the fourth round pick.
I also like Shaka Toney. He was a pretty disruptive edge rusher. He's a more athletic guy, slightly undersized, but I just think that's a good outside linebacker-esque guy who can kind of blitz off the edge when you want to bring five guys. But I think they did a good job. There wasn't anything that really blew me away with wow, they got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at 52 overall. There wasn't anything that really jumps off the screen at me. But then again, I don't think that they necessarily needed that. I think they know that Ryan Fitzpatrick is their guy coming into this year. I think they know that they're going to play hard-nosed football. I mean, their defense last year was incredible. They have 4 first-round picks on that front line, and now I think they have 6 first-round picks in the front 7.
Yeah.
So, but I think that defense improved off of a defense that was top 5 last year. So yeah. What about you? Overall, how do you think that they really did?
So overall, I would say a B. Overall, like I said, I think they addressed a lot of the key points that they needed. The reason why it's not a little bit higher is so the one thing that they really needed on this team, I would say, is a quarterback. And with these 5 quarterbacks here now, I will say the Jags, the Jets, and then the 49ers weren't going anywhere. And they are 19th overall. And maybe they didn't want to get into a bidding war with the Bears, but the Cowboys definitely seem interested in trading, and they probably would have only cost them a first-round pick, so to say.
Yeah.
And then not getting Justin Fields or not getting Mac Jones, because now they have no real plan at quarterback. Right now it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. They have Dwayne Haskins waiting. Maybe they think they can try and develop Dwayne Haskins, but I don't know if that's really...
No, Dwayne Haskins is on the Steelers. He's cut. He's off the team.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. Correct. Wait, so then who's their other quarterback? I don't know who their... So that's they don't really have a...
Taylor Heineke and Ryan Fitzpatrick is the quarterback.
Yeah, and I like Taylor Heineke. He showed a lot of heart. But is he going to be able to stay healthy? Is he going to be able to bring it every single week? Who knows? I could be 100% wrong. But not having that backup plan, because you could still sign both Taylor Heineke and Ryan Fitzpatrick and then trade up and go and draft Justin Fields. You know what I mean? You still go and do that. And you see Tua had success last year with Ryan Fitzpatrick at his side. You bring in Justin Fields. And also, I will say, if I'm Justin Fields, I'd rather get drafted by Washington than Chicago, because Chicago is a dysfunctional organization. Washington, Washington's going through some stuff right now, but the team, the defense is only going to get better. I mean that. Also,
the head coach Ron Rivera versus Matt Nagy is hands down like a way better situation in Washington.
Yeah. So I feel like they missed an opportunity, and they had a decent amount of picks. And similar to the Eagles, you pick the best player available. I think at a lot of those picks. So why not take a chance? I mean, give up a first-round pick next year, try and be aggressive, because if you get that quarterback, then now that's your franchise quarterback for the next several years. Hopefully, you know what I mean. But now that I could easily see them, if they could potentially make the playoffs and be in the same spot next year. They could also, and they didn't take an opportunity either to draft Kyle Trask or Kellen Mond or Davis Mills or something like that. Maybe they were planning to if they fell to the third round, because all 3 of those guys were taken immediately off the board. So that's just where I would wish they would have addressed that position, because if there was a position in need for them, that was a position.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Right now, I think they were kind of dead set on Fitzpatrick being their guy, and they did need a decent bit on that team. I mean, they needed an offensive weapon. Maybe the asking price was just too high.
Yeah,
and maybe they have a guy in 2022 that they really like that is coming up. Yeah. The only problem is, I think they're going to be too good. I mean, even if they don't make the playoffs, I think they're going to be picking in the low teens to really be able to pick a guy next season and be able to accurately like project where he's going to go.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. So or maybe we can see if, I mean, where there's going to be several quarterbacks, there'll probably be first round picks next year. Sam Rattler, that's something that we'll talk about for sure. But and some guys will emerge. You know, Joe Burrow kind of came out of nowhere, and now he's got millions of dollars. So who knows?
Mac Jones was the same way.
If they are in the low teens, much easier to trade up from, I guess, 13 to 5 than it is from 19 to 5. So we'll have to see.
I don't know, but overall, so my thoughts, I'm going to give them a B, just a B, because like you, there's nothing that really jumps off the page for me. I wish they would have gotten a quarterback, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad they didn't as a Patriots fan.
Yeah.
But they definitely needed something there just to kind of develop for the future. But I do like some of the picks.
I agree as well.
Like I said, Samuel Cosme, Diami Brown, Shaka Toney.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to give them a B. They did fill most of their needs. So
I agree as well. Yeah. And so it wasn't like the Steelers where not only like did the picks not make sense, but they didn't even address like
the major needs.
Like they positions and added depth and added good talent. But I did feel like I just where that team's at, especially like with that second. Even though they did get Azeez Ojulari, no, never mind. They Who do they get with their second pick?
Samuel Cosme.
Yeah, okay, Samuel Cosme at offensive line. If you could get Kyle Trask there and then still get an offensive lineman that's just as good as Samuel Cosme would be. You know what I mean? Or maybe up and a couple extra picks and try and get an offensive lineman that you like. So, that's just me. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see. That being said, though, it wasn't a bad draft. That was I'm being kind of nitpicky with them.
Yeah.
So.
That is like, if we're not NFL GMs, but if we were GMs, we would have done something a little bit different than what they did.
Yeah.
But so speaking of Azeez Ojulari, I think that's going to kind of carry us into the last team in the division.
Is your video working?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay. All right. Might just be my internet then. I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's what we
do.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It saves to the computer and then uploads it later. So, like, your video is independent from mine.
Oh, neat. Okay. That's cool.
If that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, with the Giants, to me, I really like their first 4 picks.
Mm-hmm.
And then their last 2 are just kind of like...
Well, when the 6th round...
Yeah, but...
You're going to get and maybe they're going best player available. Maybe they're trying to add some depth and help out Saquon Barkley with the Gary Brightwell pick. But that being said, I think the Giants of these teams had the best draft. And I also did. And when we talk about the Vikings, I have to review, but I might say the same thing about the Vikings, because when you trade back and you get a first round pick and you still get the player like a great player. Yeah, I like that. That is such a solid draft for them to get Kadarius Toney at number 20 overall. That can instantly come in, and they got a first round pick next year. And Bears could suck, and so that could be a really good first round pick.
Yeah.
And then you get Azeez Ojulari that falls all the way down to them. Aaron Robertson was an underrated cornerback coming out of college. Those 3 players right there, I think, are starters on day one.
Yeah, for me, Aaron Robinson was a guy. I was watching tape for Richie Grant, and I saw Aaron Robinson, and I was like, wow, and like this. He is athletic. I want to say, yeah, he's perfect size for a corner. He's very physical, fast. So, that pick for me is great, especially in a division that added Devontae Smith and Diami Brown. You need speed at the cornerback position, and I think that's a very good pick for them. For me, Azeez Ojulari is a fantastic value. 6'2", 250.
I agree.
Dominated in the bowl game.
Oh,
dominated,
absolutely dominated.
So,
and some of those offenses are probably worse than Cincinnati's offense. So Azeez Ojulari could do really well. And the NFC East.
yeah.
But no, that's why I think even though they had the least amount of picks, I think that they had the best draft. If we're talking about overall player value, sorry, not player value, player skill to the team that they're going to. Just had Tony, Azeez Ojulari, and then Aaron Robinson, those first 3 picks, like that right there. Holy cow! Like that's a draft.
Yeah,
that's a really good draft, considering then that they also got a first round pick next year. So, so this draft could even go up for me, and I give them an A- only because they only had 6 picks. Personally,
yeah, I'm going to give them a B+ for the same reason, but I'm going to do one more, and just one of the things that I hated the most about this draft is you have Saquon Barkley and a young quarterback in Daniel Jones that need some help. That offensive line was atrocious.
Yeah.
One of the worst 10 offensive lines in the league. And they didn't draft one offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And so I know they re-signed Nate Solder, and I think they signed a few free agent offensive linemen. But, in that division, you have to have something.
Yeah. And they do have Adrian Thomas coming on his second year, so he's going to be learning.
Yeah.
And so, I think they addressed some of those needs in the offseason. But that's a point, though, that they could have added some value, especially in that 6th round as well. There's going to be offensive linemen that are available that, hey, well, let's give him a shot. You know what I mean?
And that's what I was referring to when I said in the beginning, like, I just didn't really like the 6th-round picks, just because I feel like you could have drafted, is it Dante Brown, the guy from Alabama, the guard that was like 350 pounds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like, he was there. I mean, he was available.
Yeah.
While he's not going to be super athletic or the best offensive lineman, he's still an upgrade for you. And so for you to go draft Gary Brightwell, a running back out of Arizona, when you have Saquon Barkley, who can literally do it all.
Yeah.
Granted, he got hurt. He got hurt last year, right?
Yeah, he tore his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And granted, he got hurt, but I think you got to give something to Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
And that for me was like the biggest downfall of the Giants draft. But I like what they did in the first 4 picks. It just, like, I don't know. You got to win the trenches, especially in this division.
No,
so.
I agree. And that's one thing I think we've been saying a lot about Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater. It seems like we go towards drafting towards the interior. And it's like, we'll talk about it more when we get to Pittsburgh. But when you don't have an offensive line in front of you, like, you and I are 6'2" and in the mid 250s. If we got signed by one of these,
well, I'm not in the mid 250s. But
excuse me, I'm not in the mid 250s. I was averaging. But I was averaging.
Okay,
because you're clearly more in the 250s than I am.
I am taller than you.
That is true. That's a good point. But but like, if you put us in like on an offensive line, we're not going to be able to guard anybody, and like that offense is going to be crap. You could pay the guys behind us as much money as you want, but it's going to be nothing. You need to have a world-class offensive lineman in front of you, and then you'll be able to pay whoever it is. If we have a world-class offensive lineman in front of us, we could at least get a couple of yards per run. You know what I mean? Throwing.
Oh yeah.
But like, if you have no one to block for your running backs, then they're not going to be successful.
Well, so the year that DeMarco Murray ran for 2,000 yards, that offensive line, I mean, I think they had 3 Pro Bowlers that year on that offensive line. Like a couple All-Pros.
Yeah. And then look at his career after that. He goes to teams that have mediocre offensive linemen, and he can't produce the same. You know, so if you're going to spend your money, you need to go spend your money on the offensive lineman. Peyton Lindsey, undrafted rookie, runs for 1,000 yards. He had a great offensive lineman in front of him in Denver when he did that. Yeah, no, definitely. Who's another one? Derrick Henry.
Well, okay.
One. Like, I mean, Derrick Henry is a freak. I will say, like, he can throw guys off him. But that being said, though, if you look at their Ravens, the Ravens-Titans playoff game, Ravens absolutely did a great job on the interior defensive line and plugging those holes. Titans did also have some injuries last year. Taylor Lewan tore his ACL and was out for the year, their star left tackle. Yeah, and he couldn't produce the same. Now, he still ran for over 2,000 yards, yes. But some of that was he had a couple of 230-yard plus games, I think both against actually. So,
But then in the opposite case for me, the Seattle Seahawks have not really been able to put together a running game since they made a Super Bowl run in 2014-15.
Yeah.
And they had Marshawn Lynch, but they also had good offensive linemen. It was nothing spectacular, but I mean, it was above average offensive line in the league. And so for me, I think time and time again, you see these teams and they ignore the offensive line position. And I think it's to their detriment. That's because as good as your skill position players are, if you don't have time to get the ball to them, then it's pointless. So.
Yeah. And we're going to be seeing that now with Atlanta and when Julio Jones, we'll have to do an episode on it, or a special episode, because he's probably going to get traded. And you see that's what happens. They haven't made the playoffs in the past couple of years. They've had losing records over the past 3 years. And yet they paid Julio Jones and Matt Ryan a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But now they're having to dump out all that stuff. And it's not like the NFL is not like the NBA, where like LeBron James could be the highest paid player by tens of millions of dollars and then still make the playoffs. You know what I mean? Well, and still make a deep run in the playoffs. The NBA, the NFL is not a one-man sport. You need all 22 guys to understand what the other 21 guys are doing, and to be coherent and cohesive in a team sport, so to say. Baseball is such an individualized sport where technically you could have one guy go out and win a game. Like if the pitcher throws a perfect game, like there's nothing the other team can do. You know what I mean? It has no impact on the other player, so to say. And that's what's kind of the beauty of football is you need to have all of your starters. All the players and coaching staff need to be on the same page and the same game plan to come forward. And when you pay all your money to one guy, then you're going to have scrubs like us. Also just be out there.
Mm-hmm. But all in all, I think the Giants will be a better team this year. I still don't think they're going to compete really for the division. Granted, I guess they might have to win 10 or 11 games this year.
Might have to win 7. That's it.
Well, true. With 17 games, they might have to win more.
Yeah, probably.
But just to kind of wrap up the episode, who do you think is going to win the division this year?
Cowboys.
Cowboys?
I think
that was pretty quick. That was.
I think that they're the best team overall. And if you look, their first couple of losses had some serious coaching errors. I think their loss against the Los Angeles Rams in the beginning of the year were like, for some reason, he went for it on 4th down and they're down 3 with a couple minutes left. And like it was 4th and goal, but you tied. Like they didn't end up trying to kick the field goal or something like that. They went for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then like they didn't even have a chance to go in overtime. I'm not saying that they would have won the game, but it at least extends the game. Like that's where it didn't make sense. But Dak Prescott doesn't get hurt. I think that team is a 500 team, and that's them winning the division. Now I think they're going to have a more defensive-oriented coach. Dan Quinn's only going to have to focus on the defense. People are going to talk about how bad the Falcons' defense was. But Dan Quinn was also trying to coach special teams and offense as well, so wasn't able to prioritize. I also think that all 3 of these offenses in the NFC East are fairly weak. So it's going to be easier, I think, to kind of game plan against those teams if he's able to get the right guys. So that's it. With all the offensive weapons that they have, and I'll say that for how weak the other teams are, Cowboys have the best offense. Dak Prescott can stay healthy.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think they have the most proven offense.
Yeah.
I think
they can improve.
The Eagles, if Jalen Hurts can come in and play well, I think the Eagles might have as good of an offense. And then I think the Giants could too because they signed Kenny Galladay. Now they have Kadarius Toney and Saquon.
Yeah.
The only thing is their offensive line isn't as good. But personally, I really like the Redskins again. I think their defense is really good, and I think their defense can win them.
I agree with that.
Can win them 8-9 games. If their offense is just average. So that for me, I'm gonna pick the Washington Redskins. I have to cut that out. I don't want to get canceled.
We'll have to bleep it out.
Yeah. I'll bleep it out in post.
Yeah. That would be kind of funny.
But no. I think the Washington football team is probably the best bet to win this division, just because I think they'll be consistent. They'll be the most consistent team throughout the year.
Okay.
So
that's a fair point, too. They won the division last year. That's not saying much, as I think I've said already. But, and I think if you look at the overall team aspect of it, I think Cowboys have the most talent, you're right. But if we're talking probably the best coached, you're right. I mean, Ron Rivera is clearly the best coach in the NFC East. The Eagles' coach is unproven. Frank Sinterra, is that it? What's his name?
I don't know.
Or Nick Sinterra. I'm blanking on it. But Ron Rivera is clearly the best coach, and I think Mike McCarthy.
Nick Sirianni.
Sirianni, that's it. Has a lot of flaws, but talent-wise, if the Cowboys can get it together, I think they can win this division. Now, I don't think any of them are Super Bowl contenders by any means. I think that this might be an unpopular opinion. I think that the Cowboys would need to improve on Dak Prescott because I don't see Dak Prescott getting any. I don't know. I don't see him getting any better. If that makes sense, I think he's kind of reached his ceiling. And I feel the same way about Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones. I feel like those two can get better, but I don't think that they'll get better than Dak Prescott. If that makes sense. I think they're all kind of destined for middle of the road kind of NFL career.
Yeah, for me, I think Daniel Jones is as good as the team around him, and Jalen Hurts to me is just completely unknown so far.
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, Daniel Jones, I think, could be a Joe Flacco, like, on the Ravens when that team was really, really good.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think the Washington football team will be the most consistent, and I think eventually that'll win them out the division in the long run. But I definitely agree with you. On paper, I think the Cowboys are the most talented team.
Yeah.
So
they had flashes last year. They just couldn't play defense.
Yeah, and when Andy Dalton played at the end of the season, I mean, that offense looked good with Andy Dalton, and Dak Prescott is better than Andy Dalton.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So there wasn't a slight at Dak Prescott, but I don't put Dak Prescott up into the elite tier of quarterbacks that are out there as like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Ryan. You know what I mean? Ben Roethlisberger when Ben Roethlisberger was younger. So.
Yeah. So, alrighty. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Tracy Take. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Thank you.